Hey, good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. This is Make It Personal, and I am Pastor Terrell. Sorry about yesterday. I have no excuses. I just plumb forgot to upload the video, so that's my bad. But I am more than happy to be here again today. I want to read from the book of Galatians. If you don't know the background of the book of Galatians, this is a letter that Paul wrote to the churches in Galatia well after his visit there, which you can read in the book of Acts. And rumors and reports have been coming back to Paul that they hadn't abandoned the gospel of Christ, but they started to intermingle it and mix it with what they used to know. This is so evident in a lot of today's Christian hearts when you take the old law-based way that they served God before the grace revelation of Jesus Christ. And they intermingle it and mix it because, hey, don't just throw out the old, but Jesus fulfilled that law. And so Paul is very distressed that they went back to the law and tried to mix it with the new because it just doesn't work. Oil and water don't mix. Galatians 1, chapter 6. Paul says, I am amazed that you are so quickly deserting him, being Jesus. I'll say, so quickly deserting Jesus who called you by the grace of Christ for a different gospel, which is really not another. Only there are some who are disturbing you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. Let me stop right there and tell you this. One of the big perversions of any gospel is when man tries to insert his own understanding. See, man wants to control things, and sometimes a lot of people, they'll just take enough of God so they can put it in a box and say, this is God. But God is no longer at the center. It is now that person's understanding teaching you. That is why, as a preacher, as a teacher, the number one person I should be challenging is myself, my own beliefs, my own understanding, because if I don't constantly challenge myself to make sure my beliefs line up with God's, I'm now teaching you my beliefs and not God's. Verse 8, even if we or an angel from heaven preach to you a gospel contrary to what we already preached to you, he is accursed. He's saying, listen, I preach the gospel of Christ to you. So I don't care if other man comes and tells you differently, or even if an angel from heaven teaches you differently. A curse be upon them. As we have said before, and I say it now, if any man is preaching to you a gospel contrary to what you received, he is accursed. For if am I seeking the favor of men or of God? Am I striving to please men? If I were, I would not be a bondservant of Christ. Paul goes on to tell of his own past and how the revelation of Christ, it separated him from everything he was. It even separated him from his own family line. And he says, I don't consult men for approval. I want God's approval. And word had gotten out that Paul was the one who was killing Christians in his former life. And now he's the one glorifying God. Paul told his story, and he didn't want to emphasize, not only to emphasize the effect of the revelation of Christ had on him, because look, I killed you, now I'm preaching to you. This is what Christ did to me. I mean, the most massive 180. In modern vernacular, it would be like someone like Hitler coming to Christ and now preaching to the Jews. This is what Paul was. He was a mass murderer of Christians. And he's saying, listen what the revelation of Christ did to me, did to my heart. I want to point to God and say that's what he did for me. So I ask you this, does your personal story point to God, or does it point to yourself? Does your personal story give glory to God, or does it bring attention and favor onto yourself? What is the revelation of Christ that drew you to him? Not just what you've been told about Jesus. What did Jesus say to you? There is a source of contention if you do allow it. Don't get me wrong. But there's one thing that no one can ever take away from you, and that is your testimony. Your personal experience with Christ is something that is with you forever. Don't argue about what somebody else said. What did Jesus reveal to you? This is what Paul's getting across. Here's my story. Don't be persuaded. Don't be dissuaded. Don't be convinced to follow somebody else. Follow God. God bless.